Welcome to the Scandi Shift, the podcast where two expat mums talk honestly about surviving, thriving, and building a happy life in Denmark. I'm Selena.
And I'm Meg. And today we're talking about finding your village.
Which, to be honest, sounds a little cliche.
Yes.
Until you move somewhere new and suddenly realize how much your village was doing for you without you even noticing.
Exactly. And this feels especially timely because we've just come off of our first across the table dinner. And honestly, it was such a lovely night. We had women from different countries, different ages, different stages of life, some moms, some not moms, some had young kids and some had older kids. And honestly, the big common thread running through everything they said through so many of the conversations across the night was that they were looking for connection, right? These were women who were looking for connection, not networking, not trying to search for a job, whatever, just true, genuine connection that they could feel rooted here in Copenhagen.
Yeah, this was pretty much what stood out to me too. Everybody's story was different. Everyone's background was different. They came from totally different countries, different ages, full spread. It couldn't have been more diverse, but somehow they were all talking about the same thing, finding their people, finding community, finding a support system, finding a village.
It sounded like an advertisement for a spa there, finding your village.
That's a nice name for a spa, actually. I'd go there.
New business proposition.
Come find your people at the village. But I definitely agree that, even though some of them had only been here for a few months versus some for many years, and some were Danish. I just want to say that too, because often we talk about this and people immediately think, oh, it's all expats. And only expats have this kind of struggle, right?
Yeah.
Of finding, no. It's Danes too.
Danes, so we were talking right before we started recording about the two different types of Danes that usually have this. Like someone who has moved just an hour and a half away, for instance, or 2 hours, or to a new town in general, and how hard it is to sort of really break back into finding your village and finding your people. And then Danes who have been abroad for some time and come back, they have a lot of the same struggles that we as internationals and expats do coming to Copenhagen and coming to Denmark.
Yeah, it's the clash of the culture again, because you've embedded, and probably as we try to do here, we try to integrate more and more, and we take on things that we wouldn't necessarily naturally do coming from a different culture and background. And they're doing it in another country. And then they come back here and have almost a culture shock because the country they left is not the country that they feel like they've re-entered, because they have a lot of different beliefs and values now, potentially.
That's a really good point. That's huge. I wonder if we ever returned. We're not returning from whence we came, but if we did, we might find the same issue. Going back to the UK, going back to the
raising
US.
Kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be, for me, that would be crazy. Anyway, we digress. It was amazing. We had a really good night ourselves. We were hosting, we were doing a lot of other stuff, but I think it was really apparent that actually timely, we should do something about finding a village. We talked a little bit before about friends and how difficult that can be, but I think we're going to go into it just a little bit more.
Yeah. And it got us thinking about this sort of bigger question. What does it actually mean to find your village, in air quotes? When you've moved somewhere new, because I don't actually think the village is the same thing truly as just friendship. And I don't think when I was in San Francisco or living in the States in general, before my son, before family, anything like that, and any of the different cities I lived, I thought of or ever called it a village or referred to it as a village. I just called it life. I just called it life, right? Like you have your life. In San Francisco, it was friends. It was the parents group that we were a part of that was very active in his, now I'm going to call it a Børnehave so people don't get confused. But yes, his Børnehave in San Francisco. And, for me, also being in San Fran, my childhood best friend lived there. We both moved to San Francisco. So it was like having a sister. So there you had my, version of family. But it was the fact that you were surrounded by people you could count on many different levels, whether it's coworkers, things like that. And that is a village. It's beyond just knowing someone, having friendships. It's that support you get. At least that's what I think about, right?
Exactly. And I think the difference there is it was organic. You weren't finding your village. It already existed. You just pulled on like the support system. You know, like it was like an eco support system.
Yeah.
Whereas when you just get ripped out of there, it's probably it sounds aggressive. Yeah.
Like, under chains to Denmark.
and we cannot say that because both of us definitely wanted to come here. It was not our spouses. It were both Danes. We were like, we're going to Copenhagen.
Yes.
But as well, for you, it also, there wasn't just one person. You just naturally have this ecosystem, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it was the whole network.
Okay, I can completely relate to that. I mean, my village before Denmark was mostly friends too. And it was even more sort of friendship orientated only because I didn't have kids.
Yeah.
You know, I'd already moved away from family when I was living in London. So my friends were my people. And I had this amazing group of girlfriends that I've talked about before, plus a couple of close guy friends, you know, people that I spent all my time with and people that I would call, you know, life was great, but also when life wasn't so great.
Yeah.
And of course, we have all of those times.
I think that's actually one of the things that finding your, you know, I pause because I'm trying to find the right words for it, but the down times is when you feel the most lonely and when you're seeking that support, and that's what a village is. It is the support, the emotional, sometimes time, sometimes, you know, I don't know, that lift up you get from just like a quick drink or a laugh, or, you know, this idea that you have a person or people that know you so well that you can just be you. And when you come to a new place, it takes time to find that. And if you're having trouble finding the people, it just exacerbates that feeling of loneliness, even if you're really busy.
Yeah. And looking back, I completely took that support system for granted in the way you're just not consciously thinking about as a support system. You're just thinking, this is my friends, we're really fun, we hang out, you know. But I think most of us do. You'll assume it will always be there because it always has been. And then you move somewhere completely new and realize, okay, now I am at ground zero. I have to start building, finding again. And that requires effort. And honestly, when I look back, and this is slightly embarrassing to admit, but one of my dear friends in London had a baby and she was the first to have a baby. And honestly, I was probably a terrible friend. And I don't know if others can relate to this, but in the sense, let's be honest, when you don't have kids, you don't have a freaking clue how hard it is, how stressful it can be, because of course you don't understand it. Like, how would you know motherhood can be super isolating, for example? Yeah. You don't know that until you're in it. And then once I was in it in Copenhagen without all of my friends from London, then you get a real reality check. And it made me, I actually thought about her a lot in the early days. You know, I moved here, I became pregnant after 1 year. I got pregnancy depression, postnatal depression, dark days. And although I had several, you know, I would call real friends at that point, even early on, I had a baby in February and it's like in the middle of winter and we all know, we all get down. We've talked about the 8-month Danish winter. I lived on a 3rd floor apartment. My family wasn't nearby and my support network wasn't here, right? And it was really, really hard. And she came into my mind a lot about how lonely and isolating at times it must have been, even when you don't have the depression and all of that stuff, right? It's still really hard.
It is. It's like you're in this battle, like, because you're also in a battle with your body and getting your emotions back and fighting who you are as a person. And there's a lot with that, which we will definitely talk about motherhood, another one, because it does change who you are and how you connect. But, you know,
and apologies, I actually realize now we didn't do some kind of disclaimer at the start to say we would touch on more sensitive topics, but I'm not gonna. I've mentioned it. I'm not gonna go into it in this episode. We're gonna keep this light and breezy.
No, exactly.
But if you are suffering, you know, no, you're not alone, and there are so many supports available. And we will put them onto our website after this episode.
Yeah. I will have to Google it because I don't know where they are in Danish, but but we will find it for you.
Yeah, we'll put a couple of things on there.
Yeah. But this actually touches on another thing that we were talking about right before we started recording, which is this big article that just came out, right? So, and it does, you know, it references a couple things around if you have children and things like that. But so Selena came in and said, have you seen this article in Politiken. And I said, wait, it's the same article that my Danish friend was talking to me about in the dog park yesterday and what is the article? It's focused on exactly this.
Yeah. It couldn't be more clear. They've interviewed several people. They've reviewed data from, intonation surveys, like 10,000 plus expats globally, not just in Copenhagen. And the outcome of all of this stuff basically just says, oh my God, is it hard to integrate and make friends here? I think Denmark ranked 43 out of 46 countries on the intonation survey, which centers very much about that integration, forming social circles, all that good stuff that we need to, for a place to feel like home. So although it's super high on the happiness index and livability and all of the good infrastructure and all that we have, all of the great things that we need to have a great life here, but one of those huge components around social integration is missing for quite a lot of people.
Yeah. And this is not recent because they did the study a few years back.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Denmark also still ranked close to the bottom.
Yeah.
And I think there was a guy that was quoted that he had come over from Sweden too. And then after a year here in Denmark, he moved back to London.
Yeah. Even comparing 2 years in Stockholm to a year in Copenhagen, he found Copenhagen infinitely harder to integrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this came up too, obviously, in the Across the Table dinner and a lot of the reasons people are reaching out. And, we've talked about it. And I think it really comes down to a few things. The article brought this up too. One person in the article said a lot of it does come down to language because it also is, an extremely difficult language to learn. And this person is married to a Dane and is in with like Danish family and stuff like that. And had mentioned that in the beginning, everyone started, was speaking English and making her feel welcome, and then immediately then switches into Danish after some time, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But then she ended up feeling very, very lonely and isolated from a cultural standpoint because of that. And we've talked a little bit about language here and there, and we'll definitely do a further one. But it does feel for some people the language part is a barrier. But that was not the only thing that they talked about. They also talked about the sort of the impromptu get-togethers or lack thereof.
Yeah.
The engagement when it came to schools or not, with parenting. And what was the quote that when someone said, oh, at 4:00, the office empties out and some foreigners feel like everyone's gone to a beer they haven't been invited to.
Yeah, but the reality is they're picking up their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think then, like, to that point, if your office has, what is it called? Friday drinks? Is that how they say it?
Friday bar.
Friday bar. If your office has Friday bar, go. And the more you go and the more you put yourself in there and the more you're like, hey, foreigner here, and I'm going to stick my face here and show, you just have to it's a lot more effort. It is more effort than I'd say other places where you need to make friends.
Agreed.
But if you keep that effort up, I've found, and I'll speak personally for me, if you keep the effort up, it might feel like you're forcing yourself on people, but eventually they become your friends.
Yeah, it's true. It is kind of, they do a nice job, I have to say. I mean, we haven't, we're not going to do a full podcast episode on the Politiken article, but it did really feel very timely based on Across the Table launch. Plus, let's be honest, we did this on purpose. Creating the Scandi Shift podcast was because everybody has their ups and downs and daily struggles here, particularly as foreigners, right? Danes also too, we recognize that. But we just thought it would be a fun way to talk about ours so people don't feel as alone, because you're definitely not. We all have the struggles. But the article, it captures the essence so well of the majority of people trying to integrate here and all the struggles on the social side. And now I'm trying to remember. There were 4 things that they said. You touched on one. Making friends was one. Yeah. But they also sort of put it back on foreigners to say, Danes, absolutely. Workplaces, Danish citizens, invite your colleagues out for a beer. Invite them over for dinner. Make them feel more welcome. We have a responsibility. We need the workforce. It contributes to 12% of our workforce. Let's keep people happy so it's not costing the economy as well. And we get, I think that all it's all good stuff, right? But then what was the other stuff they said?
I'm blanking.
Yeah, I know. I
Honestly,
really
and
wish
we're
we could
trying to find
remember.
it. But it's all to say that there's two parts of the story here. One is, as foreigners, it is important to know it takes some time, and then you just have to keep putting yourself out there, and that's hard. And that what we're saying
Yes.
is not easy. Like, especially if you're on the more quiet side, especially if you're more reserved, especially if you're from a culture that doesn't, I guess, instill this idea of being like overly out there. That it makes it immensely harder. But I love the fact that it was in Politiken and it was in Danish, because the audience for that article are Danes.
And I actually wonder if it's part of the push for them to put it out to the Danish community. Of course, whenever I have a conversation with anyone Danish about the challenge of this, they completely acknowledge it's not like a news flash.
Yeah.
They absolutely recognize that this is tricky. I think that everybody's just caught up in daily life and in the social circles and busy.
Yeah.
And maybe like as the individual don't really understand how they can fit somebody else into this rich, full life that they already have.
Exactly.
But yeah, the message was very clear. Invite your international colleague over for coffee. That's exactly what they said. Be a yes person as a foreigner.
Yeah,
say yes to everything.
Keep asking, and then maybe ask for a few weeks ahead of time so that people can plan more because of what's going on. And it's not a culture of on the fly plans. So be okay with that, and then just ask repeatedly. So it is sort of a mixture of, as Danes, you reach out across the table.
Yeah.
And as foreigners, you reach out across the table, and then you can come to an across the table.
Exactly. Everybody come to across the table. Yeah. We had to get that plug in. It wouldn't have been right.
No, it's true. But I will say, it's not just being here. I feel that making friends as an adult is very tricky. I think I've moved a few times in my adult life. From college, I moved to Italy and moved back. That was easier because I was kind of thrust into a friend group that was, and again, when you're in your early 20s, it does seem a little bit easier. I moved to New York, but I had a career and I had made friends through work. And when I went to San Francisco, the same thing. Or I had friends of friends, and you kind of jump into that. But when you move somewhere really new, and especially like me, where I moved here without a job in Denmark, it is harder because I think the fabric that lets you make friends as a young person, like whether it's college or school or something like that, as an adult, then it's work or a hobby. And if you don't have a traditional job or don't have a job yet and you're trying to find a job, which God knows, we know it's difficult to find a job here as a Dane and as a foreigner.
Absolutely.
You don't have that outlet. It does not make it simple to be like, oh, hey, I'm trying to think of a Danish name right now.
Christina.
Yeah, Christina. I would.
Mia.
Or Mia. Yeah. I would love, to grab a coffee. Like, you don't have that window to find them, and so then you're trying to find it in these little pod groups that you then, try and find that way of seeing people a lot.
It's a bit like dating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
Neither of us are an expert on dating right now, by the way. We haven't dated in a really long time.
And I've certainly never dated here.
We should do an episode on dating in Denmark and bring in a special guest who
we should absolutely
knows.
Bring someone on who knows something about dating in Denmark, because we hear fun stories about that too.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you're saying. I've had a different experience and I have a slightly different feeling.
Yeah. Tell me.
We've talked about this before. Brits don't go through the same school system as Danes. So we don't just form the circle at like 6 years old and then they just generally remain friends throughout life. We are more transient. We change schools at different points before 18. So you kind of get used to this, like, it's not, I wouldn't call it transient childhood friends, but you get less time to form that deep friendship.
Yeah.
And also you kind of know, well, it's like a lottery. What school you're going to end up in? You don't all get to go to the same school. There are many schools that you can go to because it's bigger and etc. And I think that does something to kids. I think we're not like flaky.
No.
I have friends now that I have been friends with, some of them for 20 years and more, but generally they're not my school friends because we change so much and we move around. And I think you just build something in you, a resilience and a different approach to friendship, which in some ways works very well for me coming somewhere like Denmark, because I am used to the effort.
Yes.
That upfront grind, saying yes, all of that stuff. When I read the article, I was like, it makes a lot of sense, like that they would say this, because it feels like that's something that you just have to do. And it feels like something I have definitely done, not just here, but also
in London.
When I moved to London, I also didn't have friends. I didn't really know people there. I had to form my circle again. And it is. So the dating analogy is funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, because you do have to kiss a lot of frogs.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right way to say it is. It's not, but you get what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, you can find, much like dating, you can find it where you meet someone and immediately you're like, wow, this is a good friend, and that's and it just clicks. But there are going to be times that you're going to start to make a friend and then be like, maybe it's not the perfect match.
No.
And that's a little bit awkward too, but
then you're 13 again.
Yeah.
Oh wait, why haven't they contacted me?
I sent them a text. I've invited them. Oh, that came up in the article where the person had invited people multiple times and they just didn't respond. Yeah. So it happens in life, friendships, and dating.
Yeah.
Ghosting may happen.
And there's also some looking inward at that point.
Yeah.
Like, am I saying crazy shit at the dinner? Like, maybe my monologue approach wasn't right.
No.
Or, I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. But let's talk about the fact that like now you've been here 9 years. I've been here 18 months, and we've found our people. I would say I'm in the process still. I'm still early-ish.
Yeah.
But I feel very lucky that in the pretty short amount of time,
right,
I've been able to start getting my village. And how did that happen for you? Because you've been here longer and you've had different ways of doing it. Just as like even tips for people.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to try and think back now. For me, it started through work. When I moved here, I had a job straight away. I applied whilst I lived in London, and then I moved here and I had like one weekend, and then I was straight in on the Monday morning.
Yeah.
And I worked for like a high growth, they're not called SaaS now, but it was back then, SaaS company. It's not allowed anymore, that. But it was a SaaS. Yeah. And they were very international. Yeah. So there was even another Brit in my team, and her and I are still friends this day. And then I connected very well with a couple of others, and we are all still friends to this day. So that's where it started. I stole my best friend from my husband's best friend, his wife. So a little bit of stealing. Actually, I'm just going to remind you of something you said across the table, which is quite hilarious. Meg made this funny point about basically, guys, we're talking about how hard it is to make friends and things like that. And then Meg said, no, but this is my tactic is you find a Dane and they show any interest and you latch onto them and you hang in for dear life and you just keep going and you're relentless, practically stalking. It was very funny. And everyone was laughing because we kind of get the sentiment that you Danes are just a little bit harder to crack. So I guess in some ways I did that. I feel like it was reciprocated. I don't feel like I was stalking and she was like, what the hell? Okay, well, now we'll just become best friends because you're so persistent. We had a lot in common. And yeah, so she's a wonderful friend. And then honestly from there, motherhood opened some doors. Not
because
so much
you had your children here.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think that really helps. I think when you don't have children here, it's probably when they get to like latter years of Bernie hair, when they start naturally being like, I want to play date with so-and-so. And then you connect with the parents and then maybe something can grow from there.
Yeah.
But with school has made, like I've talked about this before, school is like different, a whole other level of social interaction. Some from the school and some just between parents.
Yeah.
And one of the things we have going now, which I've actually just organized, the next one is Moavine. So Mum's Wine.
Love that.
We love the name because it works in English and Danish. Because of course, more wine and more vine. I mean, they both work.
Can I steal it?
Yeah. And yeah, so we will meet very soon again. Of course, drinking wine. That is the common ground there. So there's a tip. But it's so nice. And it's
Yeah.
just a different way to connect. And, you talk about the kids, but actually I found last time we talked about lots of other stuff as
Yeah.
well. And we have that in common, but it's clear that we have other things in common. And then those are my main roads. So work was I think, international friends.
Yeah.
Then I got Danish friends from work. That was like my second, third job, right?
Yeah.
And we're still great friends now. So it's been a real mix, to be honest.
And then obviously your husband.
Yes, my husband. So of course, I'll give my husband full credit for my best friend. We've talked about this before. He knows. But everything else is just like, honestly, it is saying yes to things.
Yeah.
Get out there. Put yourself out there. Be brave. Be vulnerable. Maybe you get some that are like too busy, can't do it. But often I find people really are all looking for that level, right? Of friendship.
So luckily, I think
what about you?
Yeah. This is a good way because I have I didn't have a job. I still don't have a Danish job. I had a job that I was working with an American company, which is at least is not really going to be an opportunity for me to get out there and mingle here in Denmark when I'm like, working with a US based company. But I did the same thing of getting myself out there. I did not have my child here, so I didn't get to have the mom group, which I think is such a fantastic concept and really cool thing that they have here when you have your baby here, setting you up with other mothers.
Yeah, definitely.
But when you don't, then you don't have that kind of like connection. But I had my second child, which is my dog, and he has been a fantastic gate or key to opening gates to meeting people.
The dog park friends.
My dog park friends who have become genuinely really good friends. We invite each other out to do things. We go out for drinks. They've come to my house. We've gone to dinners together. Yes, I owe two of you guys the sushi dinner setup. I know, and your listeners. So I'm going to do it. But that was the idea of like getting out there and moving it. And then from there, I've met people. I go to a wine club that's international women that was started by actually a French woman. And I got invited to it. And I go every month. And I met a Dane there and I really hit it up with her. And then I invited her to coffee. And, we've started that friendship. And, anyone you find that you're connecting with, it's like just say, you know what? I really like that person. I'm going to invite them for coffee or a glass of wine and see what happens. Actually, going to a Danish birthday party with my husband a few weeks ago, I clicked with another woman. She's Danish. We really liked each other. We immediately found a way to connect and, had drinks together.
That's really nice.
That's the way it's like, it is. And it goes back to the article, putting yourself out there and just trying. And it's scary. I mean, I'm naturally an outgoing person, but it's hard on me too. And then there's expat groups too that you can join, right? There's a lot of amazing organizations and pop-up things that you can go to. And based on if you love running or based on if you want to do picnics or even language exchange, there are opportunities to connect. Not always with Danes. A lot of them are international ones, but there are also opportunities to connect with Danes.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And also the goal isn't necessarily recreating what you left behind.
Absolutely.
It's building something that fits your life now. We can all romanticize and pine for what we had. But life has also moved on. Most people who move here, you enter a new chapter by default because your identity starts to shift and things change. And then you add kids into that, dogs, whatever it is, right? New job, all of the life changes that come. Yeah. But for me, it's simple. A village, it's surround yourself with people who are there for you without judgment, people who can help when life gets difficult, people who celebrate you when life goes well, and people who bring good energy. I mean, let's be honest. I'm in my 40s now. You're in your 40s. I do not have time for negativity, for bad energy. I just
don't have. I don't have it in me anymore.
I just don't.
It's not worth it.
I just want to be around. You don't have to be happy all the time because that's not life. But you just want to be surrounded by good energy.
Yeah.
And my village helped me. And one of them I know is a listener, so now she's going to be smiling because I'm going to give her a shout out. But on Monday, I have to take one of my kids to a hospital appointment. And I messaged her and said, hey, would it be okay if my other kid who goes to school with your kid, would you mind dropping him in? Yeah. Because it's a really early appointment. And she immediately replied and said, absolutely. And we can pick him up earlier. And also, should I drop the little one off? for you. You know, it's like,
nice,
it's just so cool to have that in my armory.
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't rely just on my husband's family. Now it's actually really building out. So for me, and I love to repay that as well.
No,
You've babysat for us when we wanted to go to the opera. She took 3 kids and put them all to bed. And Meg has 1 kid. So this to me, I mean, most people would be like, are you crazy? But it worked very well.
I had a delightful time.
Well, you know, part of the village, this is what we do for each other, right?
Yeah, it is. It's picking up, it's being there. And, you know, especially we're both married, obviously. So we have partners, we have husbands, we have everything. And they are there for us. But sometimes they're busy. Sometimes they're traveling. And like, you can't.
And we all get so much from our husbands, but we also get something very,
very unique from our girlfriends.
And different from girlfriends.
Yes, it is. And honestly, I agree with you. Husbands are fantastic, but they cannot give you the same things that girlfriends do.
No.
And majority of your time, your village as a woman is going to be filled with girlfriends.
You can just be like, oh, this thing happened to me. And they're like, uh-huh. Yeah. It's like, you know, they really relate to it. You know, the other 100%. One thing I didn't mention actually about, I have another requirement for my village. So everybody who's listening that's in my village, people who'll dance on the table with you. The gauntlet is down. I haven't done that for a while. And I also just said how old I am. So maybe I'm a mother of 3 in my 40s. I don't think that those days are ever over. There's always a special place for that. Yeah. Once every few years.
You can bring it out, dust it off.
We are going to celebrate my birthday soon.
That's true.
You're coming.
I know.
All the village is going to be there. So
I need to make sure I wear dancing on the table shoes. Something not too high so you lose your balance, and have a good enough a tread so you're not slipping.
But I feel like it's, you know, it's a basic requirement.
Yeah, I'm game for that. I'm there. But I think, you know, this is where we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
How have you started to build your village? What are things you've tried that honestly be like, yeah, it didn't work? I mean,
also, what have we said? And you're like, oh my God, this just doesn't resonate with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do it. Like, we'd love to hear, we'd love to even give you like our tips. We have other friends who've approached this differently. But yeah, so, you know, are you building your village here? Has it been successful? Are you somewhere else and trying to build this village? It's not just here in Denmark. Have you found your people or are you still figuring it out?
Yep. So write to us at thescandishift@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram.
You can always do that.
Yeah.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. Obviously, it helps people find the show.
Tack for a day.
Tack for a day.